Imagine being a non-US IMG. You have worked so hard to match into your dream residency, doing USMLE, doing the research, doing your US clinical rotations. Finally, you made it. And you start building your life as a physician in the United States, and suddenly everything stops because you are detained by the immigration. That is actually what happened to Dr. Rubelis Bolivar, also known as Dr. Bibi. She is a PGY1 emergency medicine doctor at South Texas Health System, and she was detained by ICE at the airport. Now, the goal of this video today is three things. First, I would like to reassure all the non-US IMGs out there that this is actually not a typical case, because when this happened, it instilled fear. We all scared, we all, as a non-US IMG. But again, this is not a typical case. I would like to reassure you, and I would like to explain to you why that's the case, right? Secondly, I would like to remind you again that we, as a visa requiring IMG, there are rules that we need to follow. We are immigrants, right? So we need to follow those rules to make sure that we always legitimately stay in the United States. Now, I'm gonna give you three tops visa rules and regulations that you have to follow. These top three rules are the rules that a lot of non-US IMG might not realize when they violate it. And the worst thing is, it will affect you years after, when you probably need to switch your visa from J1 H1B or from H1B to a green card. That is the time when it will affect you. And they don't realize they might have made these mistakes and not following the rules, just because probably you're not aware of the rules, or you think it's not a big deal. Whatever the reason is, rules are rules, so we have to abide by the laws. Okay, so I would like to re-emphasize that again. And finally, I would like to explain to you, if just so happen an ICE agent stops you, what can you do to prepare and avoid getting into trouble. I highly recommend you to watch this from the beginning to the end, because let's say you fail USMLE. Let's say you didn't match this season. Guess what? You can try again, but you cannot try again if you get deported and banned to come to the US, or you lose your life. So that's why this video is very, very important. Right, so let's talk about the facts a little bit here. I did some research, just a very basic information. I got it from New York Times of what actually happened. Again, I'm not gonna get into a political of what politically right or wrong here. A lot of people like demanding release. This is not right. I'm not gonna get into that part. I'm just gonna get into the part of what actually happened to help you understand that most likely this will not apply to you. So I don't want you to be scared. Okay. So as far as I know, based on my research, Dr. Bibi is a PGY1 emergency medicine at South Texas Health System. Her husband first came into the US as a tourist around 2015. And then he applied asylum after, because of what happened from Venezuela. They both are from Venezuela. About a year after, Dr. Bibi came as a derivative of the asylum, and then has stayed in the US ever since. And Dr. Bibi has a valid work permit according to the resource that I got. And then she was about to fly to California with her daughter to join her husband. And at the airport is when it happened. She encountered ICE agent. They asked her some questions, and it seems that the officer is not satisfied with the answer, and then she was detained. Fortunately, her 5 years old daughter, based on what I heard, she has been released to her family, so she is safe. This is the reason why this is not applied to you. And actually, this happened very, very often. She is an asylum case. People can stay as asylee for years because of whatever bureaucracy. Even with a pending cases, even if you follow everything's right, because you have been there for years, and Dr. Bibi has been in the United States for about a decade now, and she was an asylee, and she hasn't got her green card yet. So it kind of makes sense to me that the ICE agent will not be able to really get a straightforward answers of her legitimate stay in the US. Now, I'm not saying that Dr. BB violate anything, but certainly in this case, it seems the ICE agent unable to determine her legit status, and that's what they do. They detain first, or make the arrest first, and then ask more questions later, which is crazy, right? Now, in your case, most non-US IMGs are not going through this phase. My guess is the one of you who are watching right now going through a B1, B2 visa, come to the US to do your US clinical rotations or USMLE Step 3, right? That's what my students usually do. I usually help them by providing a visa letter that they accepted to do observership in my clinic, and then they get the valid B1, B2 visa at the embassy. And then I usually also provide an immigration letter that they can present at the airport to show that, yes, accepted him or her to do the clinical rotations in my office. And the good thing is that I come from a large health care institution in the US, so legit, it's not coming from like random private clinic out there. And then you do the rotations, and after you're done with the rotations, you go home, and then you do interview virtually, and then after that you receive the email, hopefully during the match day, congratulations, you match, and then you will transition to either J1 or H1B. Now these are a very, very straightforward visa journey, and very, very unlikely that will really happen to you because you're not like staying in the US for a decade. Right? So that is like itself already very hard to verify that throughout your a decade of you staying in the US that you have been legitimately staying. Does that make sense? Right? It's very unlikely that would really apply to you. So I don't want this kind of story to distill fear, make you feel scared. Oh, I'm on J1, this can happen to me as well. It's very, very unlikely. So I would like to reassure you with that. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's get to the point number two. Point number two is, as a visa requiring IMG, there are rules to follow. And these rules are often, you might not realize, violated because you just not don't know, right? So I'm gonna re-emphasize this again. So the rule number one is never overstay. Not a day, not an hour, not even 1 second. You never, never, never overstay. Don't do that. Now a lot of IMGs like, oh, maybe I can well, if I fly back on the 25th, I got 200 $300 cheaper, yeah, as opposed to if I travel the previous date, so maybe I can just travel. No, if it's an overstay, it's a no. I know, we as an IMG want to be as cheap as possible, but no, it's not worth it, trust me. So don't do that. Never, never overstay, not even a second. So that's rule number one. Rule number two, do not work if you're not on work visa. If you're on a B1, B2 visa, then you cannot work. If you're on F1 visa without an OPT, then you cannot work. So don't work. Now, what's constitutes as working? No, that's the thing. That's a very, very difficult line. The one that I feel like a lot of IMGs might not realize they're making is that YouTube channel. If you have a large, strong YouTube channel that is related to moonlighting or working, right, and it's not determined as a hobby, especially if it's related to your expertise. So if you're a teacher, then you teach, right? If you're a researcher, you teach research, right? So that video is kind of like related to your work and expertise. Now that can constitute as work. It will be different if you're a doctor and then you probably play tennis or something, right? Or you play games and then you do a YouTube channel about games. That you can easily say that as a hobby, although that can be questionable because you can also coach playing video games, and that's what we consider as working. You know what I mean, right? So the key here is working or not working. Now, if you get paid, obviously that would constitute as working. If you get paid by YouTube, I mean. Now, if you don't get paid by YouTube, it still can be questionable. So that is the part that a lot of IMG not realize, right? They're actually working by just making a YouTube videos. Now, this is a good chance for me to explain to you because there has been a lot of debate whether J1 can own a business, can own an LLC. Okay, now I'm gonna say this very, very carefully because I actually have created a video with my immigration lawyer, Remzi Kulen. I have made videos with him, amazing man, multiple videos before, and I have covered this topic before, but I didn't release it in the public because I didn't get a chance to. But here is the chance I'm gonna explain to you. J1 physician can own a business. That's legal. But the J1 physician cannot run a business because that would count as moonlighting. You cannot do any other work besides you come in this case residency. If you do any other work, mentoring students or some sort like part of your expertise, that will constitute as work and moonlighting. So be very, very careful with that. Now, again, there is a difference between owning a business and running a business. So, yes, legally, you can own a business. I am sure of it. Okay. But here is my recommendations because this has been a talk in LinkedIn because they say, like, oh no, you cannot start LLC. Yes, you can. You can start LLC. You just cannot run the business. You can only own it as a passive owner. Okay, it's like an investor. Here's the thing, even though you can legally do that, I would highly recommend to not do it because owning a business and running a business sometimes it's just a thin, fine line. If you don't understand what you're doing, then don't. I highly recommend not to do it. Most of the time, you don't know what you're doing. Okay, so I just want to get that out of the way. Now, point number three. Point number three is not to use any public benefits. The public benefits is like SNAP, like Meals on Wheels, or Medicaid. These are public benefits. And if you're on a visa, you're supposed to have enough money or insurance or some sort so you don't use public benefits. If you use them, you're gonna be in trouble, and we're gonna have trouble years after. They will investigate you after when you switch your visa from J1, H1B, H1B green card, etc. So you want to make sure that you never use any public benefits. Okay. Now we get into the last part. What you can prepare if an ICE agent stops you. First of all, this has been recommended to me when I was switching from J1 to H1B, and also still recommended after H1B. And now I'm a legit green card. I have a very straightforward visa journey here, so I'm not worried about all these things because I can just show my green card. But basically, you want to bring your paperwork. You want to bring your paperwork, hard copy, not digital copy, but hard copy with you everywhere because they can stop you anywhere in the public places, basically. And these paperwork are the paperwork that show that you are legit staying in the US. Now, for me, who already has a green card, it becomes very easy because I carry the green card in my wallet. I bring my wallet everywhere, right? So if anybody stop me, I can just show my green card. But a little bit of a hassle for people who have a J1 or H1B, or if they're in F1 or B1, B2. But I highly recommend that you bring the hard copy with you. Secondly, what you should do if an ICE stops you. Now, this part is very, very important. I want you to listen to this because if you don't do it correctly, you might lose your life just like that. So listen carefully. If somebody stop you, if ICE stops you, right, then what you do is do not resist. Do not resist and follow the instructions. Okay? And of course, by law, you can exert your rights to remain silent. You can exert your right to call your lawyer. You have to cooperate, but you don't have to allow them to get into your house or allow them to search your car. You can politely refuse them. They typically will ask you of your identifications and whether you legitimately stay in the US. Now, let's put me as an example that I would show them my green card. Now, this is okay. I'm gonna show you what you shouldn't do. Okay, let's say you get pulled over in a car. Okay, you put your hands on the steering wheels. Okay, you pull down the window. You turn on the lights to make sure that the officer can see everything, right? To make sure that they don't see anything dangerous. And when they ask you, sir, can you show me your green card or ID, please? Oh, okay, okay, okay. Bam, you're dead. Don't do that. Because, I mean, it makes sense. You ask an immigrant, you're panic. Oh, can you get it? Yes, yes, yes. Bam, you're dead. Don't do that. Okay. So what you want to do is you're going to say it politely. Okay, sir, I'm going to reach out to my wallet, or I would like to reach out to my dashboard. I don't have any weapon in the car, right? And I'm going to move slowly. Sure. And then the officer going to say, go ahead. Then you move slowly and you grab that and then you show whatever paperwork you have. Okay. So make sure this is, I mean, I know this is absurd, right? But you can easily lose your life just like that by moving suddenly if you encountered a very highly motivated officer. So that's why I said this is very, very important. If you don't match, if you miss an attempt, you can always try again. You can't try again if you lose your life. I think that's wrapped up the whole video. I explained about how this case that happened is actually not typical. I don't want you to worry. I don't want you to be scared. Follow the rules, visa rules and regulations. Do not overstay. Do not work if you don't have any work permit or if you're on non-working visa. And then don't take any public benefits. And then if the ICE agents stops you, you prepare ahead by bring all your documents with you, hard copy. And then if they pull you over, cooperate, don't resist, and move slowly. Say it and move slowly, just like when you do a physical exam. I'm gonna listen to your lungs. I'm gonna take it. You say it, and then you do it. Same thing here. Say it, do it, move slowly, so you won't lose your life. That's the video for today. I hope that's helpful, and I pray for the safety of Dr. Bibi. Hopefully, she will release soon and she can go back to serve the community again. And I will see you again in the next video real soon. Bye now.